Hello punters, how are you? Hope you're having a good day. I am here in Morges in beautiful Switzerland. If you haven't seen the new reveal, the new reveal of my downhill bike, hit that link up there, get caught up. What we're doing today is it's all about suspension tuning. I have no idea really what's going on with my bike, but luckily this guy here does. This is Ben Walker. I don't even know how to introduce him because he has so many skill sets, it's pretty insane.
I did help put together the team and I helped test the bikes, and anything involving downhill bikes I'm totally into and want to help make it better. So
I think I'm in good hands. So what we're going to do today and how we're going to take you through this is I've never ridden this bike, so every lap you'll see is you're coming along with me. I'm going to give Ben some feedback. I'm not going to say, oh, the compression is this or the rebound is doing that. I'm going to tell him my feelings on the bike, and then Ben is going to take that information and then he's going to twiddle the knob. Let's go and do a first lap. And here we are on the Morges chairlift, up for my first lap on the Gambler. It's all the way back down there. So check out this view. There's cows everywhere. Goodbye, fresh bike. Let's check out this track. Oh, jump. Straight line. Okay, around the berm. Oh, jump. Oh, maybe straight on. Oh God. It's down there. Oh, that berm's so big. Oh God. Oh my life. There's some pretty square edge rocks here. Oh, it's so muddy. There's like loads of lines. Easy. Whoa. My brake levers feel really funny. Wow. Oh, that's it. Well, that has everything. Okay, first lap done there.
So basically, I want to kind of get one or two variables out of the way. Tire pressure. Are we happy with tire pressures? Or?
I think we might take. People are going to laugh when I say this, but I think 1 psi out, down to 20 and 22.
That's fine. I totally don't mind changing pressures of tires. I just kind of want to concentrate on it early on and figure out a setup that you like early on. I noticed that you're not getting full travel out of your fork. I wouldn't want you to get full travel first run going so slow, not knowing the track, but it just points out to me that maybe your fork is harder than your rear end for that, because I don't want your rear end to be sinking in. The front end gets unweighted and then it pushes wide. When it's tucking in, you're scared to lean into it. Those are the two extremes. We'll do like kind of bracketing to start off, and then we'll zero in on some balance.
Yeah, I felt like it wasn't kind of get on top of the front.
I noticed that. Here and there I'll watch you riding and then I'll ask you a loaded question, and I'm sort of looking for this answer or that answer, and that'll give me a direction to go. The fact that your bar was throwing you off, that also argues the idea that you're too tall. You can't get in there and go where you want to go. You have like a lack of directionality. I would like to take a little bit of air out of your tires, and I would also like to make your fork a tiny bit softer, but until we get that balance, it's hard to make progress.
That it?
I think that's good for now.
Alright, up for another one. Oh, it's not new anymore. I got Ben. Ben's riding behind me, just watching what the bike does. Okay, just do the same as before. Oh my God. Oh my God. Lap 2.
I'd like to ask you a couple loaded questions.
You asked me the loaded questions.
Which will give me a little bit of an idea. Did you have any hard bottom outs?
I did before that first bit. On the kind of the hip thing, I landed and I could feel like a tongue.
Okay, front or rear?
Rear.
When you turn, can you cut as sharply as you'd like, or are you getting pushed wide?
I was definitely feeling like there was some understeer.
Yeah.
And I couldn't like the front wasn't setting into itself.
Yeah.
Like I need it to be like a bit lower.
Yeah.
And a bit softer maybe.
Okay. So basically that's kind of all the information I want for right now, because I want to basically get your bike level, because if you can't go where you want to go, you're going to get scared. Getting you able to go where you want to go, and then we optimize traction and other fine-tune stuff. You have the feeling of being pushed wide. I want to address that first. If you have a rearward bias and your front wheel is light, because you're running a short stem, you have a tall fork, so you're creating a situation where all of your weight's in the back, so all of your braking, the majority of your braking power is on your front wheel. But if you're unweighting your front wheel, you're never going to be able to bite the ground. So the information that you gave me, I'm interpreting that as you have too much weight in the back. Okay. And that's causing problems with direction, and it's also causing problems with bite.
Ben, what are you doing, bro? You're changing my stem length.
I'm making your stem longer.
But so I like 45.
Do you like being able to go where you want to go and feel good on your bike, or do you want to just tell me how it works? Because we can do either one, I don't care. I'm already running your fork super soft. I'm running into the position where I could keep making it softer and softer and softer, but then you're just basically not going to have any chassis stability if you start riding faster, hitting holes. And so I'm going to pull you forward so you're in between the wheels, and then you'll be able to go where you want. Right now you're pushing wide. I want you to be able to go where you want to go.
Oh, so sick! Loads better. So much faster. Okay, lap 3, way faster. Just realized I haven't been turning on Strava. The last change, Ben did some other stuff. I'm not asking him what he's doing, but the one obviously big change was that he made the stem longer, and that was the first disagreement I had with Ben. I was like, no, 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 no. I was way faster, and I know that that's what I have to focus on. I did feel, again, like the bike was longer and I was more bent forward. Feel like I can't really pull up.
I'm trying to pull you forward to get good balance. Your rebound on your fork was a little bit slow. It might be the rear end recovering faster than the front. You made an improvement in turning, but in straight lines you're less confident. You didn't trust in straight lines being able to bunny hop over something. So we pulled you forward, so when you're on the ground you're able to do what you want to do at the expense of being able to pull up at the last second. Now we'll do incremental changes. We sort of had to do bracketing techniques where you go like really far, and then you define your extremes. So now we kind of know that we need to be in here. Yeah. And now we'll start incrementally honing in on the good spot. The interesting thing about the Gambler is that there's 2 different curves. You can have like a 35% progression or 30% progression. I can make your bike sit up a little bit higher with a lower starting leverage ratio. So I don't have to use compression to get the bike to sit up more. I can put it in a different hole and just change the starting leverage ratio. Basically, I like the feedback that you're giving me about the compliance, the suppleness, the traction, but I want to affect the ride height without adding harshness. So this is the 35%, and if I put it here, changes the angle, the relationship of the shock to the linkage. This one has more suppleness. Because it was wet this morning, I started you on the softest beginning stroke possible. Yeah. But now, as you go a little bit quicker, I want to give you a bit of support without the harshness.
Oh, I don't like this. Oh, it doesn't feel as good.
So Paul's gone up for another run, and asked him to just take a run by himself. I always feel like when I test with somebody new, I need to learn their vocabulary first, because a lot of people describe riding differently. And so I feel like we got through that sort of stage and I can understand what Paul's saying now. The most interesting things that Paul does is that he's really sensitive with his hands and his the angle of his brake levers. For example, if I make a couple clicks of compression softer in the rear end of the bike, so I want the rear end of the bike to sit in a little bit more than the front, he feels like the brake levers are now too high. For example, I take a PSI or 2 out of the fork or get rid of some compression in the fork, and the fork drops a little bit. He feels like the brake levers are like vertical, and we don't adjust the brake levers. It's just he's real sensitive to tip to tail, like longitudinal. It's interesting. I haven't heard that sort of language before. However, it makes sense when I drop the front end with respect to some compression or some air pressure, and I don't tell him what I've done. He feels like the brake levers are too steep. Typically, I wouldn't talk to the rider this much and explain things, what I'm doing. I'd rather listen to him, adjust things, and then send him back out and then hear what the rider says. That's a really good trick if you guys can get somebody to tune your bike for you, and then you just focus on the riding and they focus on the tuning. I find that that's a much easier way to make forward progress.
It's not tracking so well.
Sag is something that a lot of people really obsess on or think that they absolutely have to have 30% sag in the back. I think that that's false. And the reason why I think that that's kind of a bad thing to try and get, if you dictate 30% sag and then you want to get your front end balanced, you might end up with a fork that's way too soft and really hard to ride at high speed. If you're allowed to go to 24 or 25% sag, then that enables you to have a fork that doesn't dive in steep, heavy braking situations, and then it helps you balance out the rear end. So if you don't impose a 30% sag number on yourself, you can balance your bike much easier.
Oh no, I got a flat. I saw that rock coming.
Where is he?
Oh man,
I thought he was getting faster.
This is gonna be ages.
How'd that go? Oh, were you sending it?
It was crap.
It was worse. We got better, and then we got worse.
It wasn't tracking at all.
Yeah.
I was on my brakes so much. Just hit this rock square on and it just went. It didn't get out of the way and just went.
Did you feel that it was the rear end that was?
No.
It was the whole thing. How were you in straight lines?
Fork.
Did you like
bouncy? Bouncy all over the place.
Yeah.
Fork felt way harder.
Yeah.
I could feel like I was like, oh, the brake levers are in a better position. Yeah. All the stuff that you talked about all day,
yeah,
it was doing none of that anymore.
So I basically listened to you and gave you more of a choppered out, and you couldn't bunny hop and stuff.
I didn't like being. It was my hands.
For sure.
Everything else, it was just my hands.
Totally.
Like if my hands were like that, it's just this.
But we didn't change your brake levers. It was just me loading the front end more. I went in a direction that your feedback was kind of sort of asking for. I liked that it came back against the way that I think we should go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Here and there, I question my opinion.
Yeah.
And I go more towards what the rider's asking for rather than what I think we should do. Putting you on a longer stem, I'm bringing you farther forward, I'm trying to create that directionality that we were talking about.
Yeah, and we were getting there
at the expense of you being confident for pulling a bunny hop at the last second. So I was questioning my desire to pull you forward more, to give you that direction, and it looks like it didn't work. No. So that's a good thing.
So Ben explained to me yesterday that when he's testing with people like Brendan Fairclough and Dean and Marine on the Scott downhill team, they'll just give him the feedback of how the bike feels where they're riding, and then he'll interpret that to changing the setup on the bike. So that's what we're going to do today, and you just talk to these guys.
Sounds good.
The thing still looks pretty sick. Let's put some dirt on it.
What are you talking about? This is clean AF. Lap 1 actually felt pretty good. I'm really finding, like, whatever, I'm sponsored by Scott, take this for what you will. This thing is pretty easy to ride. I actually was a little bit afraid that it was going to be like an absolute machine. It's ridiculously like maneuverable. I'm not going to use the word playful. I hate it when people say that about bikes. All right, Ben, hands again, same pain. Felt like I was like this riding. The front end was holding me up too much.
Yeah.
Like it was pushing back.
When I was riding behind you, I noticed the same thing. And I was thinking I wanted to make your fork softer to make it easier.
But don't tell me now, just tell this afterwards.
But basically I just want you to get used to the new conditions for today. So I don't mind doing a run or two and not respecting the process. So I was gonna make your fork softer, get rid of a couple PSI, but then put a spacer underneath your top crown. So I would bring your hands, keep your hands at the same height, but make your bike softer in the front. If you don't mind, I'd like to do both at the same time, because I'd like to keep your hands at the same height, but give you more compliance on the front.
Okay, lap 2 of the day, lap 7 total done. Yeah, the front end seems to be pushing back. The rear feels amazing. I tried pushing into it more that lap. Quite convinced it was my error on the warm-up lap. But yeah, I was getting the same thing. And this is where we're going to. So we're not using full travel.
So based on Paul's feedback, I dropped a couple PSI of fork pressure. I did kind of like a static dynamic change. Dropped a couple PSI, but then lifted up the bars a little bit with a spacer underneath the top crown.
All right, lap 8. Move my bars up. That's all I can tell. Less hand pain, but I felt way more disconnected from the front end. A couple of times I felt like I was losing the front. The shock didn't feel like it was with me.
So Paul came back and he explained that the comfort was better, his hands hurt less. However, he was less connected with the ground on his front wheel. So I interpreted that as I need to drop his hands back down and pull him over the front and get him kind of loading the front tire, going where he wants to go. So I just lowered his bars. I didn't change the suspension at all. This is Christoph. He's good with a hammer and a shovel.
Oh, that was amazing.
Better.
Best one yet.
Cool.
By miles.
We're making forward progress then.
The front felt firmer, but it like a good firmer.
Interesting.
I think back to the rear shock, straight line braking, the back was picking up rather than staying where it's meant to be.
So Paul just came down and it looks like he's really happy. It looks like we're building confidence, and the one thing that he was talking about, the rear end kind of pushing him forward or kicking in certain situations. Basically it's tricky sometimes to figure out if the shock's packing, like if it's not recovering fast enough, or if it's kind of too firm, like oversprung or too much compression. So I tried to ask him if it was kicking him in like the 5th impact in a root section, and that would basically tell me that maybe the rebound's too slow and the bike's kind of sitting in too deep into the travel, and sometimes that's easy to misinterpret as like a compression thing and the bike's kicking when it's not recovering properly. So it was a little bit tricky for me to understand exactly what was going on based just on words. So when I looked at his settings, it looked to me like the rebound was pretty slow. Hopefully the rebound a tiny bit faster makes the bike recover better. My idea was that I need to make the rebound faster, the bike will recover better, and that on that 5th or 6th, 10th impact, he's up in the supple part of the travel, and so he won't get a kind of a kick in his feet. We'll see.
Christoph's one of the bike park crew here in Morjan. He's a freaking shredder. Oh my god! That was nuts. Zero hand pain, really comfortable. The back end.
Better or worse?
Worse, I think. Not much difference though.
Yeah.
It's very similar to the one before. There's this one section where you come straight down and it's loose and it's a pretty wet turn. There, the back wheel was all over the place. And yeah, definitely not as much grip on the back. Yeah, just maybe the back was
I want to cut him off there, change something quickly and get him back in. Last run I sped up the rebound a tiny bit just to double check if it was like a packing issue. It seems to have made things worse rather than better. So I went more in a absorption direction. So I put the rebound back to where he liked it the run before. I put him in the 35% progression hole on the frame just to be a bit more supple and absorb the roots. Hopefully we can get him slowing down a bit better. I went up 2 clicks of high and low speed compression. How that works for him, hopefully we can get him glued to the ground and slowing down and riding how he always dreamed of.
Already so much more composed through that section. That was the complaints from the last lap.
So it looks like the changes were positive. He seems pretty happy with it. It was kind of a big change to do the progression and 4 clicks of compression. However, he's talking about traction, comfort, a bunch of happy words. What do you say, Paul?
Happy friendly words. It was the best one yet. Just so composed through the chattery stuff, and then coming into turn had all the traction. But how do you make it better? Is it possible?
I was just telling Christoph that I think I'm getting to the point where we should stop tuning and you should just start riding and getting used to stuff and push harder and harder. Yeah. And then with more speed, then we can go back to tuning. Okay. But it seems to me like we're stabilizing a bit. Oh, and a big error that you can make is to always keep tuning and keep trying to progress.
Now I have no idea how to make it better. And do you know what the crazy thing is? I would never go for this setup. It feels like firmer and like maybe more damping on it. And I would never do that. I would try and get more active working suspension. Yeah. But this is so much better. That is amazing.
Looks like we're making progress.
Great job. You should do this for a living, Ben. Christoph's gonna show me the way down the red track. Oh. Well, punters and Ben. Obviously I don't know that track at all, but the bike felt composed. I felt confident. There's no, I can't have any excuses about the bike, so it must be fine.
Perfect. I'm glad I got you.
How about we do a quick summary of how the difference, what we kind of did from beginning to the end.
Start off to find like a balance so that you're sort of weighted like 60-40 or whatever the optimum ratio is for your body type and the trail you're riding. And then I worked on the fine-tuning stuff, like you wanted this, you wanted that, you wanted better braking, you wanted more this or that. So overall it was balance and then fine-tuning your demands. No tokens were taken out, and the reason why was that I started pulling you down really far forward. I made you a longer stem, dropped you down. Yeah. And the track is steep here, so I wanted you to load the front wheel, but I didn't want you to feel like you were gonna go over the bars. Yeah. And so I liked that last little bit that wasn't bottoming out every run. And really so when you start hitting some of the gaps and Christoph's lines,
I don't know.
that leaves you a little room for error.
Thank you so much for the experience.
Pleasure.
If you enjoyed that, then well, why not check out the video of the bike build up here? And if you've never seen my channel before and this is the first one, consider subscribing and leave a like if you enjoyed it. And comment below what your favorite tip from Ben here was. Cheers, punters. I'll see you next time.